Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. This video is going to be a casual look and tour of the latest version update that introduced a new shared skills feature, added dodge rolls with proper iframes, and changed some of the basic weapon combos. This was a pretty big update. It released yesterday after a long maintenance period. So think of this video as really a first look. I'm going to give some impressions. I'm making this by request. I do think it's more productive in some ways to kind of really take some time to process all of this. However, I do see that there's a clamoring for info around this update. So I wanted to make this video just to give you my impressions at a glance. Keep in mind, a lot of things aren't fully known yet here, like how often we're going to get elemental tomes to unlock shared skills. We don't necessarily know all of the SP costs, at least at the time of recording for skills, and so on, and we're not sure exactly what the optimal combos are like for the new weapon combos, but they do look very similar to how they were before, so it's likely they won't have changed too much. But let's start with shared skills, as I think this is a really big one, and it's one that worked out a lot differently than I expected in my theory crafting video last week. So one of the big things is that, well, adventurers can also share their second skill in some cases, not just their first skill. I noticed this tends to happen when the first skill is either sort of too weak to be desirable, or it has some special properties about it that means that it wouldn't be as good when shared. A big thing with the shared skills is that the SP cost is not the same as it was originally, and it's usually more. There's a rare exception where it's actually the same, but it's usually a lot more, like 10k in a lot of cases for desirable skills or more SP. So that is one thing to bear in mind. It's not like you're going to be able to spam these skills rapidly for the most part. Another thing that is interesting is that the damage off the skill and the recovery potency, if it's a healing skill, is cut in half or reduced. So that means that you might not necessarily want to borrow skills for the sole purpose of dealing a lot of damage. Yes, certain skills like Ronzel's first skill, Tornado Bash, you still can deal 1,000% damage or more with this compared to the 2,000 you would deal when he's using it. But just as I mentioned, the SP cost is way higher. It's like 11,000, I want to say, from what we know so far. So it does give you Dispel, it does give you Poison, but at that rate, as far as SP cost, it's not like a poison that you can maintain good uptime on or spam. The Dispel is going to be infrequent, so you probably want to actually save it more to use as a proper Dispel. So 11,000, 10,000, 12,000, those SP costs, they're not unheard of. There are skills that previously cost that much on the second skill, like things like Valentine's Hildegard's second skill cost a lot. Silas's second skill costs a lot. Akasha's second skill costs a whole lot, but she obviously refills that herself via the SP Gen zone, I guess. So it's not unreasonable for them to cost that much, but I do think the ones that are cheaper are going to be better. So from what I've read so far, and credit to Miss Nyara over on Reddit for sharing this, and I'll post a link in the description below, some of the skills with a cheaper cost, which may make them more desirable, at least to my mind, are the ones that were maybe in like a 5,000 to 8,000 SP range. That's kind of reasonable as far as a ballpark on what you'd want out of your second skill cost. So if you're getting a shared skill in that cost range, that's probably a good thing. But some of the ones that I think fit into that category, let's see. Well, I think Galamim actually looks pretty good. I think she's like 6,700 to share or so. That's pretty decent, considering you get 5% Dragon Gauge. Let's keep looking here. And one thing also I'll just point out quickly is that it looks like raid welfare characters can't share any of their skills. And the same is true of Alphonse, but not Sharina for some reason. So that was a little bit odd, I found. Lin Yu can't share skills either, unfortunately. I think it's because this creates special force strikes when it's upgraded, and Grace can't share her skills, so a lot of the people that were worried about Grace sharing her skill, they don't have to worry too much about that. Annalie, low-key seems pretty decent for only 3 dealing okay damage, but giving you energy and causing stun, which could be good against Volk. Seems pretty decent. And Galaluka, or not Galaluka, Summer Luca can share his second skill, kind of like Mikoto's, but you actually get more bang for your buck here. You get energy as well, and also, this only costs like 9,000 SP instead of 10,000 off Mikoto, so that seems pretty good. Let's see if we can't find... Yes, Yaten. Yaten seems like a real big winner out of this. Bold Blade increases the entire team's energy level by 2 stages. I think he gets this for only like 3,600 SP, which is the same cost that it has normally, which is very, very cheap, a little bit more than an Agito skill cost. So the fact that you could potentially spam energy with Yaten at such a low cost makes it seem pretty desirable in my opinion compared to some of the more expensive options. If you think about it, like you could cast this 3 times in the time it takes you to charge up shared Ellie's skill once, so he seems kind of neat. And a lot of the characters that might have otherwise been uninteresting, I kind of like that they gave them share on their second skill, because sometimes the second skill for them is what really differentiates them or makes them cool. But here we go with a couple more nice options. Cassandra, it seemed as though she had about 5,800, 6,000 roughly. And for all of that, you're going to get poison once you've mana spiraled her. And you're going to get a max HP buff increase, or otherwise it'll heal you if you've already hit the limit of 30% max HP buffs. I don't know if they've increased the buff limit for max HP from 30% to 60%. I kind of doubt it, but they did increase the buff limit for other types of buffs from 10 up to 20. Now, the percent limit on the strength, for instance, is still 200%, but you can have up to 20 buffs total. So that does kind of reduce one of my concerns I had initially with the skill share, which was buffs would easily overcap that limit of 10. Now you have a limit of 20, so that's less of a factor. I'm not sure if they've changed the limit for max HP though, but still I think Cassandra for 5,800 SP getting poison, healing / raising your max HP is very, very solid and dealing damage. Carl, interestingly enough, has the same buff as Ellie, but a lower SP cost. So that's a pretty good one to consider sharing, but mainly if you already invested into Carl and have him built up. And also if you have tomes to spare, which we haven't even got into yet. Yue, I think, is really interesting. Wild Child, I love that they gave her this. This is her shareable skill. 20-second buff lasts a while, and during that you're going to get 20% critical rate. You're going to heal off damage inflicted, but your defense is lowered. Kind of nice if you want to hit a low HP threshold via the opening blast, which admittedly do seem very diminished. But still, I think that this is a pretty cool tool. You could even put this on Durant as yet another buff for him, and that would be quite fun, considering he's a character who can use Wormprints like proper maintenance with full HP equals strength and extra buff time. So I do like Yue here. I see her as pretty strong coming out of this. And let's see if there's anyone else. Durant himself also can share a pretty strong buff that reduces your defense, so that's kind of nice, but his is a lot more expensive than Yue's. And then a lot of these 3-stars seemingly didn't have a whole lot going on when I looked at them earlier. One that I didn't mention was Patya. I have her at the top of the screen here, but Patya is available to share, so she only costs 5, which is cheaper than Ellie. It means that you could share both Patya and Halloween Lowen, who's also available to share, on one character. Like, you could put both of their skills onto Grace. Granted, I think with Grace, you're probably fine keeping the Agito weapon instead of taking maybe Patya's skill, for instance. But having actual healing on her is pretty insane. And so even though you can't put her skill on someone else, a lot of these characters with special mechanics, they can still borrow skills, they just can't lend them out. So I do like how they've implemented the system overall. It seems like there are a lot of protections in place to keep this from getting completely broken, so I do appreciate that. The fact that the skills do less damage, they cost more to build up. In some ways, it's more of a tool for self-expression, and I've really enjoyed seeing people who have gone all in on Emma, because when you share Emma's skill, you get to see your character cheering with pom-poms because it uses the character model, but the animation that's being shared is from the character that shared the skill. So you could see Pipple with the pom-poms, Gald with the pom-poms. It's great. Same thing with Halloween Mim. Unfortunately, they didn't really allow debuffs to be shared. Neither of Delphi's skills can be shared, for instance, and Halloween Mim and Valentine's Melody can't share their first skill, which would have been better, but this Tempering Fancy is still hilarious to share because of the animation. And likewise, I think there are a couple others in here that are really particularly funny. But yeah, that's kind of a glance at the skill share, how it's actually panned out. There's a lot of skills that seem to have some potential, and I think it's just going to be wait and see. Like Wedding Ellie's one that only costs 5, but the SP cost on this is a lot lower than a lot of proper healers' skills, so maybe this is something that you actually look at as being beneficial. The good thing, or maybe bad thing, depending on your perspective, is we can kind of wait and defer the decision right now if we're choosing not to spend money on elemental tomes, which is where I am. So I'm just going to stick to these free available skills, which means my real choices are between the story characters. And if I'm running a DPS character, I'm probably going to run Elisanne and Ronzel together. If you don't have a Mana Spiraled Ronzel, then I think you probably should run Elisanne and Cleo. And one of the things I like about this is you have more self-sufficiency in co-op. Even if your teammates are not cooperating, let's say things go wrong, you don't have access to heals anymore, whatever it may be, like you have ways to recover the fight on your own in the worst case scenario. So I kind of appreciate that. Like, it makes it so that you're less prone to fail, even though these are still costly. And yes, you can bring 2 shared skills into co-op, not just 1. And you do have to sacrifice your weapon skill for the first slot. So I think characters with Agito weapons probably aren't going to want to share into their first slot, but probably will take a shared skill in their second slot. As for the prices on these, this is why I think it's probably best to wait and see. They're definitely not cheap, and they're in the This Week tab, I think. Yeah, so for only 1 tome, it costs 100 Diamantium, so if you want to buy all 30 for the week, you're looking at 3,000 Diamantium and 5 elements, so that's a lot of Diamantium. Even one of the monthly packs, you don't get 3,000 Diamantium from it. Even if I bought all of these monthly packs, let's see, so I can buy 3 of those, that's 6,000, 12,000, 18,000, and 22,000, I guess. Like, you would be spending a lot of money, and obviously these come out weekly, not monthly, so I think it's definitely best to wait. Let's see how much we get of these. You're perfectly fine to be using Cleo and Ellie right now. If you really feel the need to do it and want to support the game, go for it. You can buy the tomes, test it out, be part of that scientific expedition for us, so all of us can learn what the SP costs are like, what the animations are like, and so on. I do appreciate the people who are actually posting and sharing that. So you can see when we do solo now, we're going to select no helper, and by selecting that, we get both of the shared skills. And I'm just running like a standard team here, but specifically picked this team because I want to show off the new weapon combos and kind of give an impression on those. It honestly looks like they really didn't change that much, so I could very well see it being optimal that, swords still do what they did before with the 4 strikes and whatnot. Oh, I got paralyzed immediately, so that's not good. But let's show off dagger first. I'll be Alex here. And let's zoom in. We just have to run away from these enemies who are chasing us. All right. You can see she does a tiny, tiny, tiny flip, which is probably a good thing. You know, the big flip let you do some cool 4-strike stuff in the air, but the small flip, and from what I've heard, the 5th hit having more SP gain seems like overall buff for daggers. Now let's switch to Ronzel. This is one that doesn't feel quite as good to me, but it's probably still ultimately good. But the axe combo, you get a tiny hop like that. That means that you can no longer charge a 4-strike when you're doing this tiny little hop. If you try to charge a 4-strike with the previous cadence, you'll just do something like I did there instead. And if you try charge it after you jump, you're not going to get your final hit. So that's no longer a combo option available to axes. However, the lack of a jump, it might be slightly faster that you're getting your 5th hit. And then with blades, my understanding on these is that whether you charge or don't charge their final hit of the combo now, you're going to get 2 hits on that spinning slash instead of 1 hit. So a little bit more damage for blades. Now let's try to do a charge. All right, that was the charged one. And now let's look at swords with Yuden now that he's not paralyzed. And you'll be able to see the jump is super tiny. And so much so that I honestly wonder, it's super tiny, but there is a little bit of end lag. It kind of makes me feel like maybe just doing 1 hit or 3 hits, 2 hits or 3 hits and then a 4 strike is still the best thing to do for them. But the basic thing with this, in my opinion, even if, let's say, the unusual combos like the sword combo and not 5-hit combos are optimal. Let's say that 3 hits into a 4 strike or 2 hits into a 4 strike still ends up being optimal for swords. You can already tell just by looking at this that the 5-hit combo at least isn't so much worse. Like that's the thing. So maybe the 5-hit combo doesn't become the best combo, right? So it's still a little bit confusing. Like a new player might not realize they should do 4 strikes. But even then, if they're doing the jump combo, the jump is so tiny, you get a little bit of ending lag, so maybe it's slightly worse. But at least you're not so far off the mark because you have this huge jump and you just get punished. So I like it. I think it makes it a little bit tighter to play. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it'll actually change much. I think that there's a strong possibility that the optimal combos will be unchanged for those weapon types, with daggers probably just moving into hitting 5 times or maybe hitting 5 times with a 4 strike at the end, and axes moving into hitting 5 times. Swords might not have actually changed. So that was a quick look at those. The projectile speed increased for wands and also for staves now, which has some pros and cons. One of the good things is that if enemies were moving away from you, your projectiles moving faster can mean that you actually hit them, whereas in the past you might not have hit them because they ran away. One of the bad things is previously you could kind of buffer between when you sent out the projectile, you could cast a skill, and then the projectile would hit after you cast the skill, and so that would charge the SP of the next use of the skill. So like there were some small advantages to having the system the way it was before. As for rolls, using or creating iframes, I have not really experimented with this at all yet. I've seen some videos. It seems like you get a lot of iframes off the rolls, like a long-lasting iframe, which is very strong. However, you have to keep in mind that rolling really confers very little benefits normally, so maybe this will create a system where we're more likely to cast skills on cooldown because we have access to iframes. It looks like they can iframe markers as well. But ultimately, I feel like this is a positive change because it means that fewer people hopefully will be dying or making mistakes, having issues in public lobbies. It should make clears more consistent, and maybe they can even design around it with more purples in fights. Let's go ahead and do our auto here and test how the auto AI performs now. So let's see, is there anything I want to change? I may want to change my shared skills now that we have access to those. I'm going to keep my Agito weapon. And, I mean, I guess I'll put a heal. I think the heal would make more sense on Grace. But I wanted Vice in the lead so he could get primed critical rate. So we'll switch them, and then we'll try it out. Let's put the heal here. Oops. Let's put the heal there on the second skill. And see if our auto is successful or not. My auto was like maybe 80% successful. If it goes too long, it usually would not succeed in the second sphere phase, but it was successful enough that I never really worried about it. Grinded out 5 or 6 of the Shadow Agito weapons maxed out. So let's see how it does. And let's see if the AI actually does any rolling proactively or not. That spinning attack that Kaiyan does is one that I saw get rolled, and the end time on your rolling is like totally fine, that you could just mash roll and survive through that, which is awesome. It's good to see that. So let's see, we're still just standing there getting hit. Interesting, so the AI can buffer skills, so you may not have noticed it there, but Grace used Cleo's heal skill after using the Agito skill. And it seems like we're making pretty good progress. Everybody's healthy. That's sort of the most important thing, and then damage comes second to that, since we don't want the fight to last forever. But we get our transformation, and the rolling thing, I guess I just don't really see why people are so upset about it. Like, if you're rolling, you're not attacking, right? So is it really that good to just be rolling all the time? To me, it doesn't seem like it's really that good, so that's my impression of it, is like, it's better than I expected. I was hoping it would be a little bit weaker, that maybe you couldn't dodge through markers, just because that kind of makes it interesting. Like, certain types of attacks require certain dodges, other ones require other types of dodges. Our shields are down here, so this is actually not good. Maybe the fact that we're spending time casting other skills has hurt our uptime on our shields. Or maybe it was just bad placement or something, but Grace seems to have recovered pretty much fully. And now we have our Cleo heal as well as our S1. Just got thrown away by Kayan, and our damage is okay. I'm most curious to see how Vice has adapted here with his new weapon combos. Because sometimes the backflip would be kind of bad with things like the yellow cages. But this looks like a pretty good pace. And this doesn't even seem to be a particularly good RNG run, so we have gotten into this dangerous phase of the fight, and I'm not going to intervene, although this is usually where I would intervene if I wanted to ensure a clear, because just by dragoning here or something, it's pretty much a guaranteed clear. But I think we're going to be totally fine to ride it out. And yeah, it took us a while, but still, it was consistent. And I'm not going to accept my weekly bonus. I want to wait because I want to get tier 2 materials from Volk, either on Expert or Master. I guess that is what I will be checking out tomorrow, and I'll make a video if I'm able to clear it. If not, I may make a video on the Royal Regimen, and there's just a lot still happening this week, so expect more Dragalia content. We're probably going to have our new raid by the end of the week, a new banner, which possibly could be a Gala banner. I may summon for Urius and Forte because I have done all my free daily summons. I'm going to keep doing them, but still, if I have a pity rate by the end, I may want to break it. So definitely going to be making some more Dragalia videos this week. Again, just wanted a casual look, kind of a tour of what's been going on as of the version update. Let me know what your thoughts on it are in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'm very curious how people are finding this. So far, I haven't had that much time to play around and experiment, so as we get more information about Skillshare, I will consider making a guide to that. For now, just hang on to your Cleo, hang on to your Ronzel and Elisanne, and you should be good to go. Alright everyone, that's really going to do it for today. Thank you as always for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.